to another episode of What's on the Pile. I'm Nathan Besner, and joining me is Shane Lee,
Hey, what's up?
Matt Wagner,
It's Wagner.
and Jenner.
Jenner here.
This episode will be discussing the Netflix offering The Old Guard, starring Charlize Theron, about a group of immortal mercenaries trying to make the world a better place. But first, we're going to discuss the amazing, phenomenal Charlize Theron and her career. Born in South Africa, Theron started out in ballet, dancing both Swan Lake and the Nutcracker. But due to a knee injury, she had to quit dancing and began seeking out a career in Los Angeles, thanks to her supportive mother. Her first actual role is technically a brief shot in Children of the Corn 3, but it was it was her next two roles where she would really blow up. 2 Days in the Valley, a crime comedy from John Hertzfeld, and That Thing You Do, Tom Hanks' music faux-opic. She has been in over 70 projects and has produced 22 different projects. Her first credited production effort, Monster, also led to her first Academy Award for Best Actress. She's a filmmaking powerhouse and one of Hollywood's best. Let's take a look at her filmography, starting with 2 Days in the Valley, with Eric Stoltz, Jeff Daniels, Danny Aiello, and James Spader, among many others, too many to list. This was a modest success, which led to many other things, a really good first feature. I saw this in the theater when it came out.
Yep.
Even then, you could tell she was going to be something.
Yeah.
It's on my pile. I can't speak
It's on
to
my
it.
pile. I've never seen
Okay.
it either.
That was going to be my next question: has anybody other than Andy seen it?
I do remember when James, who was in Crash? Is James Spader in Crash?
Spader.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah,
Spader.
he was on the Tonight Show or something, promoting that movie. And Roger Ebert was sitting next to him. He said, "This movie is terrible. If you want to see a much better movie with this man, go see 2 Days in the Valley." I remember that because I guess
That's
they were
great.
out around
Which
the
is
same time.
which is weird because Ebert actually did ultimately end up giving Crash a good review.
Then maybe it was Siskel. I think Siskel.
It was
and
probably
Ebert were there.
Siskel.
Might have been Siskel.
Mm.
Because I think they were split on Crash, but anyways,
Yeah.
but they did recommend 2 Days in the Valley. I still remember that, but I've still never seen it.
Yeah, Siskel had a thing for getting his panties in a twist.
Well, give us a summary of 2 days, because I don't know anything about it.
It's a post-Tarantino, specifically post-Pulp Fiction, crime comedy about a number of characters in, I guess, the San Fernando Valley, variously running into and or running afoul of each other. I'll allow that I haven't actually seen it since right after it came on video when somebody else that I knew was watching it, but even then, you could tell that Charlize Theron was the powerhouse of the project, or certainly the breakout performer. I mean,
Yeah, she's the one everybody recognized they're all like, but did you see this Charlize Theron person? She's great and she's hot.
yeah, she was.
There were a lot of people.
Insanely
She was,
freaking
I believe
hot.
that.
Yeah. I hate to go in that direction, but she
No, I
is
mean that. Yeah.
a
Well, I mean,
gorgeous
it led
person.
to
Mhm.
the one of the things that I found as a little bit of a failing of The Devil's Advocate, which of course she was in the
Mhm.
following year,
Yeah.
is the presumption that somebody would find some woman. I mean, granted, Connie Nielsen is is great and extremely attractive, but that somebody should find anybody more attractive than Charlize Theron is predicated on the obvious nonsense proposition that there is anyone more attractive than Charlize Theron.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that. I liked that movie so much.
Oh, I
thought it
love-
was so
I
I-
like
I-
that movie too.
Everybody loves
love
Devil's Advocate.
Yeah, no, Devil's Advocate
Oh
is
no,
awesome.
Devil's Advocate is terrible. That's why it's awesome.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, that's
but-
what I
but
said.
she-
Everyone
she-
loves
she-
it. I didn't
she
say it
was-
was good.
she, I'm actually going to go out and say it's good.
Okay.
I'm gonna-
I wouldn't.
but yeah, she was absolutely the gizmo of that film.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Uh,
she made a meal of it.
Yeah.
She made an impression. She carried it off.
And she was in That Thing You Do the same year as 2 Days in the Valley.
That one I've never
Yeah.
seen.
I've seen. I
Me
don't
neither.
remember her. I've seen it once or twice. I don't remember her in that, but I didn't know who she was at the time. She was probably just an attractive blonde character.
Mhm.
I'm assuming. I don't know.
Mhm.
I
She
couldn't
was
tell you who
Tina.
she plays.
I haven't seen the movie in long enough that I don't remember her role in it either.
I remember the four guys and Liv Tyler and Tom Hanks.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, I
It
remember
was an
that.
okay movie. It was kind of forgettable.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And then we already talked about The Devil's Advocate. She was in something called Hollywood Confidential, which I've never heard of, and Trial and Error, which I've never seen nor heard of.
That was Jeff Daniel, a legal comedy with Jeff Daniels and Michael Richards. It was an attempt to make to transition Michael Richards from Kramerdom to actual film stardom, and it was not successful.
It's because they didn't do UHF 2.
I know,
Yeah.
right?
Or well, they did do a
Yeah.
Problem Child too. He was in Problem Child.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
Didn't help.
No, that one
No.
didn't.
I would love a new UHF movie, although I don't know what they would call it nowadays. No one knows what UHF is.
Yeah.
DVD.
Let's see what else she's got. Celebrity, which I haven't seen, where she just plays supermodel.
In that that's
That-
Woody Allen, right?
That was Woody Allen. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't. Oh wait, I did see Celebrity.
Black
Yeah.
and white, right? With
Yeah, the
Yep.
black and white.
DiCaprio.
Film.
The one with
shit.
The one with Kenneth Branagh as the Woody Allen stand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I remember that movie. I remember of it. I don't remember a thing about it. Does anybody else remember what it was about?
No,
It was just some Woody Allen stand-in stumbling from celebrity encounter to celebrity encounter. I have it on VHS. It's been ages since I've seen it. I recall rather liking it, but I don't recall it terribly specifically, since I think it's probably since it first hit sell through VHS since I actually saw it. It's been a while.
I used to like Woody Allen.
I think the last Woody Allen movie I
think
saw
you're-
was Match Point, which I did like.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
been a while.
I'm going to defer comment on that subject right now.
I have seen only a very few Woody Allen films, honestly, and well after his popularity didn't wane, it crashed. But I've only seen like his best known pieces, like Annie
Yeah.
Hall and Death and
Love and Death.
Consequences.
Love and Death or
Cri-
Crimes and Misdemeanors.
Crimes and Misdemeanors. That's what
Yeah.
I was thinking of. Which honestly, I found both of them very good. Well, I found Crimes and Misdemeanors more impressive than Annie Hall, and I understand Annie Hall is supposed to be his great film, but
No,
Annie
his great
Hall
film.
is
His
quick.
great film is Manhattan, but it also leans definitely into the things that
reason
have
he
become
crashed.
more egregiously problematic since then.
I
But
still
again-
say his greatest film is Sleeper.
Yeah, I've seen bits of Sleeper, but I know I have to see that one at some point.
Very funny movie. Let's get back to Charlize Theron.
Yes.
Burn, Mighty Joe Young. This is, I guess, another one of her next big steps. It was starring role in Mighty Joe Young. I saw this movie when it came out, and I don't remember it at all.
I've never actually seen it,
Is this
which
the
which
gorilla
strikes me
movie?
as
Yes, it's
Yeah,
a
it's
remake
Gorilla.
of the Gorilla.
and that
movie.
strikes me as an oversight on my part as much as anything else, because wasn't it Bill Paxton that she was starring with?
I don't know.
And at the same time, I believe it was directed by Ron Underwood.
Bill Paxton
Uh,
and Ron Underwood. Yeah.
the director of Tremors. By any rights, I should have seen that frickin' movie. I just
That's
haven't.
probably why I saw it.
It kind of underperformed at the box office, which I don't know.
reflected by the fact most of us probably couldn't have remembered that it existed unless we were prompted.
But it was a good stepping stone for her.
Mhm.
And we are going to get to some of her better projects
Mhm.
coming up. We're going up the ladder here.
Yeah.
Astronaut's Wife.
The Astronaut's Wife, I actually thought was really underrated. That's one of the ones that I saw in the theater back during that period where I was obsessively catching the theatrical releases of science fiction and horror movies that were not pre-screened for critics.
Oh,
I actually thought rather well of that movie. It's kind of a bracingly nasty movie at heart, but it has a distinct chilly effectiveness. But her doing a very solid performance of somebody who knows something is wrong but can't put her finger on what it is.
the body snatcher situation.
It's a body snatcher situation, yeah.
Yeah, it's on my pile. That one.
I haven't
That
seen
one
it.
I had been warned off of by the critics for a long time. I mean, it's pretty badly panned, and in like the horror movie fans,
I can
mostly
absolutely see that
branded
one
it as
being
boring.
a major individual mileage will vary thing, but for whatever reason, I actually rather liked it.
Yeah.
Next up, we've got The Cider House Rules, which Have we all-
Oscar bait crapola.
I like
Yeah,
Cider
I
House
remember
Rules. That's
seeing- I
a
think-
great movie.
I think Michael Caine won the Oscar for that? I thought
Yes,
it
he
was alright.
did.
I mean,
Yeah.
Tobey Maguire's in it.
Mm-hmm.
He has
Eh,
like a fake heart problem, which turns.
Eh.
Well, I'm going to spoil the movie. Turns out he doesn't have a heart problem. He was lied to.
Oh.
He's lived his
Really?
entire life. Yeah, it turns out like he's not allowed to fall in love with Charlize Theron because he has a heart condition. Turns out it was all a lie. I don't remember the details. I don't know. It's
So
based on
wait a
John
minute.
Irving
Was this
novel.
just Bubble Boy a remake of that?
not exactly.
Bubble Boy is a masterpiece. I like Cider House Rules. I think it gave her one of her better feathers in her cap, heading toward just top 10 stardom kind of thing. Like she is a well-known celebrity, and she's not just well-known because she's in a bunch of stuff and she's beautiful. It's because she's a creative filmmaker who uses her money and now power to make more film projects that she enjoys. And I don't think she'd have the kind of respect that she has in the community if she hadn't done that film. I think that gave her a kind of a little bit of an not art house, but dramatic edge that other people wanted to use, which was not seen in her next film.
Reindeer Games?
Reindeer Games.
I think I
Sometimes you
actually
do
saw
reindeer
that.
games.
Not-
Frankenheimer's last movie.
Not late era John Frankenheimer's finest hour
No,
and a
it's-
half.
It's a bad film.
It's a bad film. It's a bad film, and Ben Affleck is bad in it, and Charlize Theron looks like she's just getting a paycheck. It's a bad film.
Yeah.
It's not good.
After that little piece of dreck, The Yards. James Gray wrote and directed this with Matt
yeah.
Reeves.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg's in it, Joaquin Phoenix, and Charlize Theron.
Matt Reeves, the Batman Matt Reeves? Wait, is that the Batman guy's name,
Yes.
Matt Reeves?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's
Yep,
not the
that's-
same Matt Reeves, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, that was sort of in that like We Own the Night strain of urbanist, gritty, not exactly crime dramas, but stories about criminals, if I recall correctly. I never actually saw that one.
I remember
Yeah,
it not
I've
being
seen it.
bad. I remember it being
Okay.
good.
James Gray is not bad.
Yeah.
I've yet to be convinced that James Gray is as great as everybody tells me that he is. But that's
I-
another discussion.
Yeah. Did anybody see Men of Honor?
No.
That was the one with Cuba Gooding Jr. and
Yes.
I
Robert
think
De Niro.
I
right?
did
Yeah.
see it. I don't remember anything about it.
Yeah,
I
I
did
saw,
actually
it
saw
on,
that.
I saw it on video when it came out.
That feels like worshipful supporting female role. type
Yeah.
stuff.
I remember them diving for stuff. They're
Wait
like
a minute. This is Cuba
diving-
Gooding Jr. in the diving gear?
Yeah.
one? Okay. Yeah, I saw pieces of that. Okay.
I say ditto Legend of Bagger Vance as the worshipful soprano.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't remember there were any female characters in The Legend of Bagger Vance.
I barely remember The Legend of Bagger Vance. I thought that movie was terrible.
Never saw
Oscar
that.
bait crapola.
It was it was not good, but I only remember the last
Prob-
3
the-
minutes as being okay.
The problem with marquee actors and actresses particularly is they have to, first they do their indie stuff or they have the little breakout stuff. They have to wade through a sea of Oscar bait crapola
hmm
before they actually get to do what they want. Or I should say, before they get to do what they want consistently. Like there are the people who do 5 for the producers, 1 for me, 4 for the producers, 1 for me, etc.
Mhm.
I like that at this point, Charlize Theron is her own producer. She actually is at that point where she gets to do what she wants, and
Yeah.
more often than not, it's fantastic. But again, we'll get to that.
Next up, we have Sweet November, which
Mm.
was a romantic film with Keanu
Yeah.
Reeves.
I've
Yeah.
seen that, I believe. Isn't it the one where
Wait.
she's dying?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he's like, okay, well, I'll be with you for a month or whatever, so you die.
Yeah.
I don't remember
That's-
much about it.
The real November romance.
Yeah.
November to November.
I remember it being depressing.
That was
think it
kind
was
of the point of
intended
that
to be.
sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Um,
literally how that works.
I think I liked it.
It was tearjerkerish.
Yeah, I like tearjerkers. I could find some joy in them.
I thought it was
Depends on the tearjerker.
it was structurally manipulative, so it's hard to fault it for being what it said it was going to be. So
Yeah.
Yeah. We have laid out the premise here. Don't expect something different to happen.
After that, we have a really interesting, in my opinion, but interesting miss, which was 15 minutes.
One of the first films about trying to go viral.
Right.
So, in that regard, an interesting historical curiosity, but still not a particularly impressive movie.
No, and that was John Hertzfeld as well.
Yeah.
Who did 2 Days in the Valley. So they got back together.
Yeah.
That also had Kelsey Grammer and Avery Brooks and Vera Farmiga, probably in one of her earlier roles. So
I was to say, wasn't De Niro in that one as well?
yeah, that was De Niro.
Yes.
Oh, I have seen that one. Okay, I was trying. I knew the title. I was like, I feel like there's an old guy on the cover. Must have been De Niro. But I have seen that. I don't remember her in it. I don't remember the movie at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Next up is another
Woody Allen.
The Curse of the Jade Scorpion. Yeah, Curse of the Jade Scorpion.
Yeah.
That one I never actually saw.
I didn't either.
Wait, I think was this the hypnotism one? I saw the last 10 minutes of that somehow. I think it was on network broadcast at some point.
I think so. I don't know. Like I say, I never saw it.
Yeah.
Even so. Yeah.
Moving on. There's a film called Trapped, which I haven't seen or heard of. Waking Up in Reno. That's another one that I'm unfamiliar with. I really am going through this list one by one, and we're going to do the whole goddamn thing.
Well,
okay.
Now, 2003 is fairly interesting.
Yeah, we get The Italian Job, which was a fun. Yeah, that was a fun.
I actually don't like that movie at all, but it was in no way her fault.
I don't like it because I like the original so much. But
thank you.
Yeah. It's only meant to blow the bloody doors off.
But in my head canon, she is actually playing a twisted version of the same character she later ended up playing in the Fast and Furious franchise. She did, somewhere along the line, she did a total heel turn.
Yeah.
This was also the same year she had her first production, which is Monster, where she played Eileen Varnos.
I mean, phenomenal performance. I never need to see that movie again.
Yeah,
I have no desire to see it again. She was great. Christina Ricci was great.
Yeah.
It's on my pile.
Yeah.
Oh, it's on your pile.
Extraordinary physical transformation, obviously, for an actress who is known for being really, really pretty. And that was one of those things that was ballyhooed to the point of abject annoyance at the time. When, the simple fact of the matter is she's a brilliant fucking actress.
Yeah, it got a little sexist there when people would be talking about that, because it's like, man, fuck you. What do you, beauty is subjective.
I mean, like you remember all of the press back. You might not remember, but all the press back in the '90s when Susan Sarandon was in Dead Man Walking with Sean Penn, and the articles and reviews would not shut up about the fact that she didn't wear makeup for the role, and that was obnoxious even back in fucking '95.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
that was annoying.
Real quick, what year was Monsters Ball?
Around then.
It was right around then.
I got these two mixed up so thoroughly in my head for the longest time that I forgot this movie existed. That's the only reason I never got around to it.
Monsters Ball was Billy Bob Thornton and Halle
Berry.
Yeah. Halle Berry.
Ledger as well.
Mm-hmm.
An incredibly disturbing sex scene.
Yes.
Those are always fun.
Yeah.
Isn't it though?
Yeah. I was like, I'm not turned on, but I should be. That's Halle Berry.
No, I shouldn't.
No, that's terrible. Anyway,
no one here looks happy.
No, it's a very sad film.
Yeah.
Yes.
I never saw The Life and Death of Peter Sellers.
I saw that. That is fairly. It's a weird little film. It's because at one point, about in the midpoint, Peter Sellers has kind of a fugue state of hallucinatory events in which he charts the course of the 20th century, and apparently this was something that actually happened.
No, it's a phenomenal portrait by performance by Jeffrey Rush in a film whose central premise is Peter Sellers was a cipher to everyone.
Yeah,
nobody knows what the hell he was thinking.
Yeah,
But Theron, I believe Theron played Britt Eklund, who
Yes.
was married to him for a while. Yeah, no, that was a very solid performance, and if anything, she's more attractive than Britt Eklund. But these scales slide over time. But no, it was a very good performance. It's just it's a bit of a chilly film, just because the entire premise of the film up to the conclusion is you don't get to know Peter Sellers. Nobody does.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Next up, we have Head in the Clouds. I'm looking into this right now because I
that
hadn't
is-
seen.
I
So
recall the
it's,
title, but I forget what its deal was.
It's her. She's top billed. It's her film. From the roaring 1920s to the ruinous Spanish Civil War and Adolf Hitler's rise into power, the lives of an Irish schoolteacher, a provocative heiress, and her Spanish muse are intricately interlaced, sharing the same destiny and passion.
Oh,
And
that was when
Charlize Theron
that,
plays all three.
that was where
No.
she was. That was back when she was hanging out with Stuart Townsend.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, no, that was kind of a low period for her.
Okay.
Mhm.
I don't know if it was good or not because I haven't
by all
seen
accounts, no. I
Yeah.
never heard anyone speak well of that picture.
it. I don't see. All right, we'll move on then. If nobody's seen it, we'll keep going. Let's see.
I have thoughts on one of the films from the following year, but do
Yeah.
continue.
Let's see.
I think we all do.
North Country. I don't know that.
Oh, that's
Well,
where she
it's-
plays like a labor, something with like
Oh!
labor disputes
Yeah,
or
she was like a
something.
labor
Or a
organizer.
So yeah,
Oh.
based,
minor or
based on
something?
the cover, it is either a Holocaust story or a union dispute.
Yeah, it's a
I
union.
believe it's a union.
I
Which I don't
remember
think I've
that
seen.
now.
I heard
And
good things about it.
by all accounts, she was quite good. It's just one of those things where I never saw it because the subject matter does not interest me in the least.
It was. I remember that movie now. I remember liking it.
Okay.
And then there's Eon Flux.
And there's Eon
Yes.
Flux, which
I
I did
saw-
not watch.
I
for
saw
the
it
show.
in
goodness.
theaters.
Yeah,
Thought it
I
was
saw
okay.
saw Eon Flux.
We're
I
gonna be
have
here a
thoughts
while.
on Eon Flux. Eon Flux.
Well, let's keep it short.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll try to keep it brief, but basically, it looked like it was shot in my bathroom, and before right before they said action, everybody acted like they had just been hit in the head with a blackjack. So it's like, thwack, ow, action. You killed my sister. It is
Is
one
that
of the
actually
most.
who's this? What?
It is one of the most deliriously awkward movies ever
Yeah.
made in every conceivable way. It
Mm-hmm.
is. It did not give me much hope at all for Karen Kusama's film career.
Well, luckily she came back.
I don't know. I actually have yet to get won over by her particularly.
Really? Did you see,
She's done some solid stuff from a scripting standpoint, but I'm still not supremely impressed with her technique.
Okay. I mean, I love The Invitation. I like Destroyer.
I still need to see Destroyer.
I haven't
I
seen
like The Invitation, but I didn't think it was particularly ingeniously filmed.
Yeah.
Yeah, she feels like one of those directors who's only as good as her script. And credit where credit is due, Eon Flux did not have a good script.
No, it did not. It was based off, from what I can tell, it was based off of bits and pieces here and there from the cartoon, but was mostly based off of the Herodotus Files, which was an Aeon Flux book released by MTV Publications back in the day and hid out on graphic novel shelves by sort of being a scrapbook of a bunch of things but never actually resolving into anything and not really honoring the central concept of the character in the first place.
I'm guessing
Why
Peter
did-
Chung had nothing to do with that.
Not so far as I'm aware.
I think he
probably
got paid.
He probably got an EP credit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was it.
But Aeon Flux is a weird direction for her to go because this is a straight up sci-fi action heroine moment. This is Resident Evil territory.
You know, it is worth noting, if I recall correctly, her first lead, like unassisted lead role, particularly in an action film.
Yeah, and it's action sci-fi, straight up, like, heck of a lot of fights, not a lot of sense, a few neat special effects.
It's a movie that takes chances. Most of them do not pay off, but it indicated a measure of sheer gameness that only gets more effective later on.
This was a superhero film before superhero films became popular, so it's a weird direction for her to go in.
I don't know. I always heard that she really liked the source material, which is why she did it.
Was my impression.
That is incredibly impressive of her to do so then, because it's not very approachable material. I think we all know the original source material, at least tangentially, yes?
Oh
Yes.
yeah, I'm a big fan. I've seen it all multiple times.
I mean, make no mistake, the movie is an absolute mess, but it's kind of an interesting mess.
Especially for people who know the source material.
Yeah.
You know, you see the bits and pieces peeking through here and there, but it's not like the source material was something that would be easily adapted.
Yeah, I can't imagine how confounding that movie was for people who weren't familiar with the source material.
Mm.
All right, moving on from Aeon Flux, we have 5 minutes to cover the back half of her career where all the good movies are. Arrested Development, Mr. F.
That's my absolute favorite role of hers.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how. I think that storyline nowadays is borderline offensive. But, I mean, she really sells the whole joke where quirky in British is indistinguishable from mentally handicapped in British. I mean, that's the entire premise of her character. And I didn't catch on until the show revealed it. I don't know if Nate,
No,
I
never did. I
did not figure it out.
I just figured. Well, I mean, I was also dating Mint at the time, and she was kind of quirky like that.
Ooh.
So for a while, I was like, oh yeah, I would date that character. And then when you get deeper and deeper into it, it's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
Forgotten that.
Yeah, that's my favorite role of hers as well. I loved it. I know it's offensive at this point. It lives in its time period, and I got great joy out of it. It was very funny. Let's go through these pretty quickly because there are going to be a lot I haven't heard of. In the Valley of Elah.
That was a mystery, a very sad mystery with Tommy Lee Jones. Excellent performance. Not a film worth that anyone who sees it ever wants to see again.
Okay.
It was Paul Haggis post Crash, I believe. Post Oscar winning Crash.
Yeah. We've got Battle in Seattle.
No idea.
Sleepwalking.
No idea.
Hancock.
Underrated film.
I disagree, but I've only seen it the once.
I disagree.
And like I feel like tonight's movie is the better version of Hancock, the much better version of Hancock.
I can see that to some extent. I still think that Hancock is a bit underappreciated just because it sets itself up as this superhero, comedy type thing, and it ends up turning into basically an elegy about loneliness. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I ended up enjoying it a lot. Anyway, minority opinion, I realize.
I'm gonna skip a whole bunch and just I'm gonna go to Prometheus.
Do you skip Young Adult?
Yeah, you skip Young Adult. That was on my list.
You skip
sorry. You do not get to skip Young Adult because I still look at that as very much one of those movies where her career can be divided into before and after.
Yeah.
Because Young Adult was one of the most freaking amazing performances I've ever seen anyone give in anything.
Yeah, great film.
That was the first time I can really point to that she was robbed of an Oscar.
Who got it?
She also followed up with Reitman and Diablo Cody again with Tully, which I also thought was fantastic.
Yeah, Tully was very good as well.
Oh, I forgot Diablo Cody wrote that.
She wrote Young Adult as well. I mean,
yeah.
She kind of abandoned the whole Juno and Jennifer's Body style, which I think was fine.
Yeah. Anyway, Young Adult, brilliant movie, amazing performance by Patton Oswalt.
Oh, sorry,
as well.
Tully was way after. Sorry, I thought you jumped way ahead.
Tully was much later, but even so.
Prometheus.
I would go on about this one if I could, but we don't really have the time to.
We don't have the time to debate a divisive film in the Alien franchise today. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, put a pin in it. We'll be back. I'm sure.
We'll do a whole show on that one.
I mean, I've never seen Prometheus. If you guys really want to do a whole episode about it, I've kind of refused to watch it.
We might have to go we might have to go longer than an hour.
Yeah.
that's a conversation.
She was in Snow White and the Huntsman. Not great.
She was good.
Million Ways to Die in the West.
Actually, a lot of fun.
Really?
Underrated
one was that?
movie. That was Seth MacFarlane.
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, that's the film where she started hanging out with Seth MacFarlane. It's charming.
Yeah, that is actually pretty fun. That's with Liam Neeson as the bad guy.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. That is the most positive review I've ever heard of that movie, but okay.
I thought it was fun. I liked Seth MacFarlane at the time.
I still do.
Yeah.
Yay, the Orville's back.
let's go to Mad Max Fury Road.
Hell yes.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
They're making the Furiosa movie without her, which is crazy.
Without her?
They are?
They recast Anya Taylor-Joy as Furiosa.
So it's
They-
younger.
Why?
So they're
Yeah.
leaning younger.
So I believe they've finally confirmed that they started production on it. It's been delayed. They've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
I think they finally confirmed they're moving forward with that with
Is
Taylor-Joy.
it just
Who
going
is
to be
fine, but it's not. She's not.
She's not
Charlize.
Charlize Theron.
Why change something that worked so well? Are we just going to spend? Is it going to be a prequel and it's a hot tub time machine situation where we're all just waiting to see how she loses her arm?
Presumably.
Probably.
That said, it's still George Miller. I'll take anything he'll give me.
Yeah.
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 I am going to call it there for our break, but we are going to return and continue going through her filmography when we come back.
Okay.
So we'll be right back. And we're back. We're going to keep looking at Charlize Theron's filmography and discussing some of her projects before we get into our movie of the night. Where we left off was Kubo and the Two Strings.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Terrific.
One of her
Starting her voice acting
right,
Yes.
Yeah.
contribution.
wonderful film.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And she did right after that. She did Atomic Blonde.
Which I haven't seen. I
I have.
Well, I am a little bit amused that we're giving her a pass on The Last Face, mostly because Sean Penn is freaking insane. But by all accounts, that movie is hilariously horrible, but almost worth seeing in that, right?
Yeah,
But yeah, no, Atomic Blonde was cementing the assuredness of her as an action lead following Fury Road. It's proving that Fury Road wasn't just a one-off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if you'd asked me who I would cast in a female John Wick, I would have just said Charlize.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That is the go-to now.
Yeah, and
yeah.
I mean, I do
That
want to
is-
see that. Just I haven't gotten around to it.
Oh, no,
that's
it's
the description
fantastic.
that's the description that's used for it a lot, but I think it also does it a bit of a disservice because it's mostly an intrigue and espionage film. The action sequences in it are ridiculous.
Yeah,
and
it is fundamentally a
pretty
spy
damn good.
movie, but it is that rarest of thing, a spy action movie that completely pulls it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After that, we've got her entrance into the family with The Fate of the Furious.
Those movies are so stupid, and I love them
love 'em.
so much.
I will say it's notable that I think she is the only villain that will never join the team. As many people as Statham killed when he was the villain, by the next movie he was on their team. I don't think Charlize will ever join the
I
team.
mean, hell, even Luke Evans's character
Yeah, even
came
his brother.
around.
I mean, she did shoot Dom's baby mama in the face in front of him. So I
Oh.
don't think he can forgive her for that.
No, she remains a pretty solid villain, and is, from the looks of it, is likely to remain so at least through 11, which I'm calling it now is going to be Fast to the Future. I've been saying this for a while. They've already launched the guys into space. The next logical step is time travel. All I'm saying.
I do want to make mention of her haircut in those films.
Which one? They're different.
Well, the bowl cut one in particular.
Oh, not the cornrows in.
No, not the
Fast Eight?
cornrows.
No, the cornrows were laying low in Jamaica or wherever the hell it was.
We go from the cornrows to the bowl cut. I think it was that direction. But that bowl cut was one of the worst haircuts on a human I've ever seen.
I mean, I think she worked on the movie for 10 minutes. She's in a box, and all
Yeah.
her scenes are from that box. And then they just put the wig on her. They're like, all right, fine. Just,
But again, further indication of an actress with who is able to do the role with no freaking ego.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She had a bit on the Orville that you mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
We've got Tully next, which is what you mentioned, Shane.
Yeah. Jane had the most wonderful description of Tully. Before I saw it, she said, "Fight Club for postpartum depression."
yeah, kind of spoils it, but yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, kind of spoils it, but at the same time, I love Charlize. I love Mackenzie Davis.
She's
It's
fantastic.
it's a low key terrific movie. It's difficult, but it's really good.
Mm. I've not seen Gringo.
I have a copy
Neither
of
have I.
Gringo. It's one of my Dollar Tree wonders, but I have not had a chance to see it yet. I
All
hear
right.
it's good.
So none of us have seen Gringo. Oh
No.
well. I don't know the long shot.
Long Shot was the one where she was a
with Seth Rogen, right?
the one with Seth
Oh,
Rogen.
yeah.
I want
yeah.
I want to see that.
Yeah,
That was actually a
okay.
really likable movie,
Supposed to
despite
be- yeah, I've heard it's
despite
right.
low-key coding Charlize Theron's character as possibly being a Republican, which is an interesting choice at this point. Gotten more interesting since then, but nevertheless, actually very appealing, and she and Seth Rogen actually had really terrific chemistry. I mean, this is the thing is, I don't think I've ever seen a movie where she was with anybody or playing off anybody where they didn't have terrific chemistry. Even if they ended up ultimately antagonistic. I mean, her chemistry with James McAvoy in Atomic Blonde, fantastic. She ended up, getting him killed at the end of the movie. Not that much of a spoiler. Fate of the
Little bit of a
Furious.
spoiler.
Sorry.
I mean, she even had chemistry with Patton Oswalt in Young Adult.
She had
They were
amazing
both
chemistry
great
with
in that.
Patton Oswalt.
Yeah.
In that.
And he had nothing but amazing things to say about her as an actress on set, like the way she gives to the other performers as they're performing. So that was really cool to hear him talk about.
Yeah, apparently she's an extraordinarily good collaborator. She and Tom Hardy were a little chilly on Mad Max Fury Road, but they apparently really bonded afterwards. Apparently, as much as anything else, she's good people to work with.
Probably because Tom Hardy was probably in character the whole time, just grunting and not even communicating.
It's Tom
with
Hardy.
words.
I mean,
Yeah.
we assume that this is what happens. Yes.
Yeah.
She continued her voice work with the Addams Family.
Family.
I'm not a big fan of those movies.
I find those ones ill-advised.
They're
haven't
not
seen them.
great. There are bits and pieces in there and one or two good jokes that I like, but yeah, they seem to rather profoundly miss the point of either the original or the John Aston.
The
John
Raul
Adams
Julia
TV
and
show, and then
yeah,
Raul
John
Julia
Astin.
was
No,
No,
I was referring
yeah.
to the original comics.
Oh,
And then
the Charles Adams.
the Charles
Yes.
Adams comics, and then it seems to miss the point.
I mean, I feel like she would be a fantastic choice for a live action Morticia. It's just those movies, they're sunny. They miss the freaking boat.
yeah.
They just don't get it. Ask Ty.
Let's see. Bombshell. I still have not seen Bombshell.
Still on my
Yeah,
pile.
it's
Still
on
on
my
my
pile,
pile.
too.
I want to see it so badly, especially with the nomination. It just looks really good.
I think
I'm
it's
excited to see it.
It's on Netflix, right? Or it was on one of the streaming services at one
Oh, is
point.
it?
Maybe not anymore, but at
Bombshell?
one point it was
We
on
Yeah,
need we
Netflix.
need to get to. It was the one about the Roger Ailes scandal at Fox News.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd really like to see that. Let's see. Next up is the Old Guard, which we'll be talking about. And then
At some point.
F9.
Again, an extended cameo, but the way that certainly indicative of the way that nobody ever really seems to get away from that franchise, unless they get a spin-off within the franchise. The Rock and Jason Statham.
She's had 2 cameos, which are a little spoilery, so I won't say them recently.
Oh, right.
Oh yeah, that is a spoiler.
Two major cameos that are worth looking out for.
Yeah, they're both great.
Yeah.
And it looks like she's just doing some new she's working on some new projects, mainly Atomic Blonde 2 and The Old Guard 2. Also, she will be in Fast 10, Fast X.
Of course, because she's still alive, and that's.
I think she's signed for number 11 as well.
I feel like she might end up being the big bad.
That'd be cool.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, she's the only one that.
She's the only villain who's persisted over multiple pictures at this point. Yeah.
Oh, cool. She's next coming out to Netflix. It's The School for Good and Evil.
I think we saw the
Yeah.
trailer for that on Bastards a while back. I think that looked fairly interesting.
Yeah,
Must
it's
have missed that week.
It definitely had a very young adult vibe to it, but it still looked pretty nifty.
a group
if I
of
recall.
children are taken to an institution where they are trained to become fairy tale like heroes and villains. I'll definitely see that with my kids.
So, like, Sky High, but with
Yeah.
magic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We have
Yeah.
Netflix, but also judgment neutral.
Also, Michelle Yeoh's in it, so that's all I
Oh,
needed.
awesome.
Yeah, we're kind of there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've talked about mainly her filmography at this point. Let's talk about one of her big movies that's come out recently. So next up, we'll be discussing The Old Guard, a Netflix release produced under Charlize Theron's production company, Denver and Delilah, and starring herself. This film tells the story of Andy and her team of immortal mercenaries who go about the world doing what they believe is right while carefully remaining in the shadows. All that changes when they're set up by a pharmaceutical company looking to profit off their immortality, and maybe cure some people, but it's mostly about the money. Meanwhile, the first immortal in hundreds of years, Nile, is thrown in the thick of it when she discovers her affliction by dying. She is ostensibly our other main character. She's our fish out of water that the audience gets to follow.
Yeah.
So what did everybody think of The Old Guard?
It's fine.
I really, this is my second time seeing it. I liked it the first time, liked it again the second time.
Yeah, I would say about the same. I did not. It was an agreeable rewatch just because I hadn't seen it since it first dropped in, I guess, 2020. I don't think I got a lot more from it from the second viewing, or any more particularly from the second viewing than I did from the first viewing. It's a mid-level summer blockbuster that happened to go direct to streaming because of the state that the world was in at the time. It is much better than its subsequent remake, Marvel's Eternals. Sorry. I mean, it does have the advantage of being well acted and well scripted, if not as visually inventive as that particular movie.
I read a lot of reviews going into this thing that were poor. There were a lot of poor reviews out there for it, saying it was mediocre and not good and it could be better and whatnot. And I thought it was fine.
I thought it was fine.
I had a good time with it. I don't have too many negative things to say about it because I don't really care about the negatives.
I mean,
that's the issue. Basically, in my regard, it's a very slight film.
Yeah.
It has its central idea and almost nothing else.
It has some of the usual. Oh, go ahead.
In that respect, I mean, I come to films like this with action films with sort of a sci-fi little quirk in them somewhere, and for doing what it intends to do, doing what's written on the box, it did perfectly well. But it's not like there was much more beyond that, and where it tries to get deep, it gets kind of dumb. Which you don't hold against action films, but you do hold against science fiction films, and this is definitely more of an action film than a science fiction film.
It's got some very standard issue garden variety ruminations on the nature of mortality or the lack thereof.
Mm-hmm.
It's what I would refer to as nothing terribly profound, but a good time.
Mm-hmm.
The more I think about it, the more I think I find it interesting that we've had a lot of kind of oligarchs as villains in a lot of movies lately. I think, however, that getting somebody who can lean into playing punchable face like Harry Melling as Merrick, the CEO in this one, is just a little bit on its punchable nose. And I find it interesting on reviewing that, fundamentally, obviously profit motive is the primary motive that he's working against. However, at the same time, the core of what he's trying to do is not inherently a bad thing. I mean, it recalled Norm Macdonald's, rest in power, routine from a while back, where it went something like, scientists say that the number one health problem facing Americans is obesity. And I said, really? I thought the number one health problem facing Americans is death. Seems like the death might be a bigger health problem facing Americans than obesity, is all I'm saying.
Well, to some degree, this is what I'm talking about. Where it tries to be smart, it's really pretty stupid, because it comes down to it, and it tries to sell us that the the real villain in the film is the nihilism of Charlize Theron's character. And that's what has to be defeated. And when we come to the end of it, we find out that all these people they saved down the line proved to be, strangely and coincidentally, huge advancers of human life. You know, identifying genetic problems, working towards medical advances, but that's not how they're targeting them. I'll come back to that. So their actions are extending mankind and extending mankind's life, and the villain's action would do exactly that if he was successful. In a smart film, we would somehow already know that that's not going to work, or he would be trying to keep those secrets from the world just so he could make money, or, you know, all of these things that pile up. But when it comes down to it, if he wasn't so determined to be a mustache-twirling asshole, these people would all get along with one another.
Yeah, no,
right?
it's the "but did I mention that I'm evil" phenomenon in the villain here, because, you know, fundamentally, he's got a good aim. I mean, he's going about it maybe for the wrong reasons, but it's still fundamentally a good aim. And moreover, given that the alternative for why these people are continuing to live for such incredibly long times is some kind of divine intervention.
Yeah,
if
except
the scientific method is going to look for something else before it takes that word for it.
Yeah, and except for the fact that the film very carefully pierces that in the heart in the very beginning, whereby it removes any concept that this is some sort of holy quest on their part, which would at least make sense why they're trying to avoid spreading it willy-nilly through science. I mean, it's not a particularly reasonable approach, but the plot would make sense if they thought it was a holy quest of some sort. And they don't, because they're, you know, this comes to my other point about Charlize Theron's character in particular, which is that cocky nihilism is not a personality. And that was the main problem I had with her throughout most of the film. And but I'm sorry, that's getting off track. But just on a fundamental plot level, a lot of their motivations don't make sense. And to pile on top of that, I have never seen a side clip in the middle of a film that stood out more than the "we're setting up for a sequel over here" and then the little clip at the end. Because that character mattered not at all other than those two moments.
I don't know. That showed why they were staying in the shadows, I thought. The reason for her character being thrown into the ocean was, this is what happens when we get caught.
Interestingly, in the original script, that was not how it happened. She was just on a shipwreck.
That's in the comic.
That's in the comic, the original comic that was written out for it by Greg Rucka.
Really?
But they couldn't do it because of budgetary reasons. So he rewrote it to do that.
I mean, the fate of that character almost gave me a panic attack, because that's like pretty much my worst nightmare, amplified by however long she was down there. That was almost I mean, I kind of feel like, I mean, she's going to be the villain in the next one, right? I mean, that's what we're all assuming.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the only thing you can do with what they've given us thus far is we have to have an immortal villain.
One would tend to assume villain, probably eventually leading to a coming back into the fold or otherwise face turn.
Oh, so like a Fast and the Furious thing.
If we're leaning into more predictable tropes here.
We could also just read the comic.
Yeah. I don't know if y'all are regular comic readers or not. I am. And I saw The Old Guard go by, and I flipped through it a couple of times, and I really had the same impression that I got from this, which is we've got our one idea, and we're not doing a hell of a lot with it.
It's just, so you're immortal. Well, what you gonna do? Well, as it turns out, most days I'm gonna get up, I'm gonna get some breakfast, maybe take a shower, maybe take a dump. Probably not in that order. If I cannot in fact be killed, I am probably going to gravitate toward a trade where that is a practical advantage.
I mean, for me, what made the movie work was basically it was a family, and they established pretty quickly the rapport, and they hint at the bits of history between them, and all the things they've been through, and these hundreds of years of individual loneliness and whatever, and finding each other. And all that stuff really worked for me, and it makes sense why they would care so much about this new person.
Yeah, I mean,
you know,
the byplay between the characters is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, when the couple, I can't remember what their names are. When the one guy expresses his love for the other one, I mean, that was an
that was a
amazing.
beautiful, that was
I mean,
a
that's
fantastic
that's the
moment.
clip to take out of this film.
Yeah.
Honestly,
That
Yeah.
is also word for word how it happens in the comic, and was stipulated in the writer's contract that
Yeah.
scene be intact.
Yeah,
Hell yeah.
it was amazing. And then of course,
Yeah.
when they kiss, and then I guess this is maybe a comment on homophobia. The soldiers immediately pull them apart, like they seem like grossed out by it or something.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, the soldiers were perhaps the only villains more traced over than the main villain himself in being just complete idiot assholes. And I will give it this much, that they consent to kill immortal people. They capture 2 of them and kill one of them and leave him.
Not how that works.
No, that guys, go back and get him. But of course, it turns out he's the traitor in the end anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I mean, why did anyone on either side buy that story? Again, this is coming down more harshly than I intend.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the film fine as an action film. It had a few bits and pieces in there, but it was all these little points. Anytime I started scratching the surface, I just came away with a handful of needles. That little jabs here and there. I'm wait, why did they do that? Why did this character do that? Why did we believe him in this point or that point? So on a surface level, perfectly fine, passable. You know, like you said, it's fine.
Yeah, no, to pull a lesson from a completely different and unrelated Netflix film, the Rosamund Pike vehicle, I Care a Lot. There is one great line.
Don't spoil that one.
That's a good
Ooh.
movie.
It's a great line. I think that context will not be a problem here. Her character at one point says, "I am not the person you threaten. I am the person you pay." And that would have simplified the plot of this movie considerably if Merrick weren't such a complete, pipsqueak, self-important bonehead. I'm like, he's like the worst of all of the famous American oligarchs rolled into one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without the self-reflection that most of them seem occasionally capable of.
I would disagree with that. I'm not a big fan of the billionaire class.
Note the occasionally.
Yeah, you've got Mark Cuban, who seems to be a good person, and that's about it.
Now, like I say, it's a little bit of a mess from a conceptual standpoint, but it's very well executed. It's sharply observed. It's fundamentally a lot of fun to watch. You don't really have a lot to carry away of any particular heft, but it's a good time. I've seen it twice now. I didn't feel my time was wasted either time. I mean, yes, it's flawed. There are not a lot of movies that aren't.
I think I would have liked it more if there had been more of a sense of humor at some point in there. But everyone was such a dour asshole.
I don't know. I feel like there was a bit of dry humor with how everybody. They kind of just don't give a fuck. They know they're immortal, and they kind of have that attitude of like, yeah, we'll just go and get shot, get killed, whatever, and then we'll do it again. I can't pinpoint any specific moments, but I found a lot of like little moments that I found humorous.
Yeah.
I
do like the running gag of stuff like Venice 34. This reminds me of Oslo. Oh yeah.
I liked how when they were in captivity, how casual their delivery was to every character who is keeping them captive. They had very level conversations with sprinkles of humor in those conversations. I think that's what you're talking about, Shane.
Yeah, and you get the sense they've been through stuff like this before. They weren't really that worried.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah. I enjoyed that demeanor.
So they're going to burn us? Yeah. How's that going to feel? Probably excruciating.
No, I liked this movie. I had a good time with it. It was nice. It was nice to have a movie that was so. I hate to use that phrase, turn your brain off, or popcorn movie, but it feels kind of like that in a way, because it allowed me to just be entertained for 2 hours. And there are a lot of movies recently that have been really dark and really harsh to people. that this just wasn't. The
It's like a
violence
Mike.
in it was almost cartoonish, and
Yeah.
it was kind of like creepy when the fingers were all bent out of shape and they were going back into position and making cracking sounds. But
It's like a
overall,
Mike.
I think it was overall I think it was well done. I really enjoyed it.
It's like a Michael Bay movie without the inherent misogyny and bombast.
Yeah, I was waiting for a Bond quote, something like, "Where's Niles? She's in the car." But maybe that's more Untouchables, I guess. But
yeah, I love Untouchables. Anyway,
I actually don't care for it particularly.
Really?
Oh,
Yeah, it's one of my least favorite De Palma movies.
I think it's the only De Palma that I like.
Individual mileage will vary in all things.
Mhm.
No,
You had fun with Raising Cain.
Oh, not on rewatch. I ended up hating it. Remember?
Oh, that's right. That's
Ooh.
right. Never mind.
Yeah, because it was all like murdering parents and child endangerment and infidelity and really bad mental health practices.
I retract. I
Yes.
retract. Mea culpa.
No, I'm looking forward to the sequel because I was actually intrigued by the Queen character, who is apparently Japanese in the comic book and named Noriko, but the actress they got is Vietnamese and she wanted the character to be of her heritage, so they changed it, which I think is really cool.
All right, cool.
I was really interested in finding out where they were going to go with a person who was stuck underwater, constantly dying, not being able to move or converse with other human beings for 500 years, how that person would come out. And I'd really like to explore that.
She's
Still
a super villain. I mean,
and I was just saying, I'm still looking forward to that presumably forthcoming, I think, Hulu adaptation of Stephen King's The Long Jaunt, which has the similar sort of existential horrifyingness to it. But you were saying something, Shane.
Are you the jaunt or the long walk? That's two different things.
I believe it's called The Long Jaunt.
If you're talking about the jaunt, which is my favorite.
The one from Skeleton Crew.
Yeah, that's the jaunt.
It's just the okay.
Yeah, it's my favorite short story of all time. It's the most haunting, terrifying thing I've ever read.
Yeah.
Anyways, it is
That's
similar. It does remind me, now that you mention it, of Quinn's fate. I mean, just waking up and drowning.
Yeah, no,
nonstop.
that's why I was mentioning it. Oh,
Okay.
and also, of course, the cat from April in the Extraordinary World, presumably, dying and coming back to life for a long time on the moon until it finally had a breathable atmosphere.
Well, it didn't do him any harm, apparently.
Well, I think he got some magical powers too, because if you'll recall, he did speak lines while he was on the moon.
Hey, fair enough.
Yes, but it was after the moon had an atmosphere.
Yeah.
However,
that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Probably had a rough few years there. That's all we were saying at the time. But you were saying something else, Shane. I think before.
No, I think I was just saying more about how crazy she's going to be, and it's going to be interesting to see what kind of crazy she is, and how she's going to deal with what's Booker's role. Is his name Booker, the guy who was exiled?
Yeah, Booker.
What his role is going to be. I thought the 100-year exile was a really interesting idea of these people who've been alone for so long. It seems like.
That seems very equanimous and yet harsh.
Like what kind of life would be in that kind of situation where you knew you were going to be fine physically, but you had to just be alone for 100 years. I don't know.
Really?
It was just fun to think about.
Really, what this put me in mind of during the film, sort of contemplating that aspect of it, I kept coming back to other fictional situations that were similar, and the ones that stuck in my head, I know I've been beating the drum for this one for a long time, but Only Lovers Left Alive, I thought was a much more interesting look at immortality and the kind of personality that would lead you to, possibly. Absolutely beautiful movie. Watch it if you get a chance.
Yeah, very different flavor of film, though.
Yeah. Yes, it's not an action film.
Yes.
And the other one, I cannot remember the name of the character, but from Sandman, where
Hob Gadling.
Hob Gadling, thank you.
Yep.
Hob Gadling, who Death and Dream, they don't exactly have a bet. They sort of have an experiment running where they just, one guy, he's not going to die. and he just lives. And they meet with him. What is it? Every 50 years? Every 100 years?
I think Dream has lunch with him like every 100 years or something like that.
Yeah, has lunch with him. At the end of it, he's like, "So, do you want to die now?" And the answer is always no. And he's gone through fortune and famine, and the guy's been on the top of the world, and the guy has been absolutely miserable. And it had a neat little bit near the end of his character arc where he visits a Renaissance festival.
Yep, I love that chapter.
Which was great. And he said the one thing they don't get right, everything smelled bad back then.
And the beer, like, you want a beer? He's like, it's probably cold. I really hope that character's in the TV show, by the way.
Yeah,
I don't know if they have room for
Yeah.
a character like that in the show.
And he has the waitress comes by and he just puts $200 on the bar and says, "Okay, I want you to keep filling my beer glass, chase away anyone who wants to talk to me, and leave me alone." Which is kind of what I'd like to do in a bar sometimes, but
All
So-
right. Well, does anybody have any final thoughts they'd like to share either on the Old Guard or Charlize Theron?
Theron's awesome. Like, consistently awesome. She doesn't have the absolute, kind of divine mania that Cage has, but she is every bit one of those actors who never leaves anything on the table.
Yeah.
Much of the first half this time was me, and I knew this because I reviewed it before we came on, but it was me kind of realizing that I have dodged almost all of her appearances in film throughout her career. Not intentionally.
Lazy bastard.
What Look, I had to watch all of the Resident Evil films first. No, but I mean, the times I've seen her, I really liked her. Not the least of which is Eon Flux, Atomic Blonde, and a handful of others. But it sounds like I really need to hunt her down and specifically look for her better performances, especially Young Adult and Tully, because I've heard from
Young Adult
every
is
quarter
phenomenal.
that those are great.
Yeah.
I would also suggest seeing 2 Days in the Valley.
Okay.
That's on
It's
my
just-
pile.
It's just a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do it for the show.
And,
Yeah.
That's
and I
not
guess
a bad idea.
Prometheus is on my pile too.
We can figure out a source for it, yeah.
Yeah,
Those
that's
like,
the thing.
Those like Reicher Entertainment released.
I think something like that. I don't even remember.
90s HBO video.
All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for us here on What's on the Pile. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter at What's on the Pile. You can find us on YouTube under the Punch Bunny YouTube channel, or you can visit our website, whatsonthepile.com. Thanks for hanging out.